while business is growing. And this is not something about being agile or doing classic project methods. It's just something about group jobs, and it's just happening to us. And when we know that, we are able to handle that. And this is what I'm going to do, but first of all, I'd like to say some words about me. My name is Judith Andresen. I'm a project coach. Project coach means I'm supporting project teams in their work, and I really love when project teams are able to ship, because that is the really motivating moment when you ship. And the question is, how do we get that? That's my only question. And sometimes I have to go vertically through the whole company to find the reason why a team isn't able to ship, and then we have to find a solution for that, and then they are able to ship, and then my job's done. Sometimes you find here some not readable lines in the footer. That's not for now, that's for later. There are some remarks and links with detailed information about the topic on the slide. So I'm going to publish the slides in SlideShare, and if you read them, here are some links to detailed information if you are interested in. It's not on every slide, but on the main slides you will find links there. Okay? Okay. Rules for this talk. I'm German, so I need rules. Tweet. If you like to tweet about this talk, my Twitter name is Janosch007. I hope you get that. I will repeat that on the agenda slide so that you have a chance to pick up the name. And ask if you have questions directly. I try to answer them. I'm going to answer those questions in general, not in personals. That would lead to a personal coaching, and I'm not able to do here personal coaching, but I could give you in general information where a solution maybe is. Okay? Okay. Then North yesterday said, Agile doesn't scale. And in a very special way, I agree with him. And in a very special way, I disagree with him. And I'd like to tell you something about that. And so I give a talk. And what I really often hear from clients is the word, we used to be a wonderful company. Everything was fine, but that's gone. And my question is, why is that gone? How did that happen? And I really want you to understand what happened there and how you can deal with it. And for that, we go through 3 chapters. First, I just tell you something about groups. You may know 1 or 2 numbers of them I point out. I just give you a row of numbers from which studies show that these numbers, these group sizes change our behavior, and then you might say, oh, we are in this state, what can we do right now? And afterwards, I just want to give you some impressions, what I recognized when I was in growing companies, which assumptions employees had about their business and what they did, and how this influenced the company culture. And it may help you to find out that you have the same assumptions, or someone else in your company has those assumptions, and then you are able to handle them. And afterwards, I have a small recipe how to deal with that, to give you a foresight. Just talk, but I give you an explanation how to talk about those topics. Okay, so remember the Twitter name? So first of all, one truth. We are human beings, and we have always organized ourselves in groups. If you do studies how people lived 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, you always find groups, tribes, something in groups, and not the lonely one man, always in groups. And we behave like that because we learned that over centuries, how to work, how to behave in groups. And this is all I have to tell you. First, number 3. From a science point of view, this is the first group. So 1 is not a group, 2 are in a relationship, but they are not in a group. 3 are a group. What does a group has to do? You have to define how is the information flow between 3 of us. You have to define who's deciding, so which are the roles. Is there someone who has the right to say the truth? Is there someone who always has to be silent? Stuff like that. These are things we have to feel out when we are a group. We are defining stuff like that. And if you look into business, at the beginning, what we do is we are a really small group, so there's only one possibility. We talk to each other. And what we do is, in a special way, very agile, because we talk to another cross-functional, directly, with words, not in written communication, and that's all possible because we are just a few of us. And we don't have any explicit processes. What we do is we are organizing our work. We are not managing it. We don't need a big process for something that we have to do. We're just saying, this is the goal we want to achieve, how do we do that, and then we make action items from that, and this all comes from a direct communication. So we don't have any explicit processes, and we have not a real hierarchy. But what we have is something, we are always looking for the one voice, the alpha voice, who decides in critical situations. And this is something we are doing because we are humans. If you establish a group of people that don't know each other, and you let them go into a room and let them discuss together, it takes only a few minutes, and then it is clear who's the alpha voice in the room, and it's clear who are the members of the team. These are the better voices, and sometimes you find an opponent of the alpha voice, which is called the omega voice. But this is happening, but we don't have a role title for this, so it's not a formal hierarchy, it's just an organizing form of the group. But what we have is something, and we don't talk a lot about that, we have the last decision to the founder. And if you ever worked in a startup, there's something very interesting going on. You have a hard conversation, what you shall do, and the founder rules it. And this is something which starts here. And the only way it could be, it could happen in another way would be you would say, yes, I know you're the founder, but my opinion is as much important than yours is. And if not, that's okay, but then the last decision is made by the founder. So in such small groups, we're not talking about managing, we're talking about organizing. When you compare this with agile values, you find this is really, really, in a special way, agile, because you're sharing a common goal, and you have a lot of frequent informal meetings, and we talk a lot about that, what you have to do. And when people are telling from the good old times in business, they often refer to those times when they were more than 3 people and less than 8. Because the maximum of 8 persons is able to establish the so-called perfect team. Sometimes it's 9, but normal number is 8. And the perfect team shares one common goal, and if you have to decide as the team member if you prefer your personal goals or a team goal, you will prefer the team goal. And everyone knows, not explicit, but you know who's deciding, who's important, who's able to tell the truth, who's the good analyzer. This is all stuff you know from this group. You know about the weakness and the strength of everyone in that group. And so you can deal with that, because if you have to achieve a goal and you know about the weaknesses and the strengths of all team members, you are able to define the perfect way to achieve that goal. So the members share a strong we feeling, and there is an atmosphere of trust. This is the perfect team. And we are only able to build something like that till the number of 8 persons, sometimes 9. But then it's too much. I will come back to this later. I just want to point out that the 11th principle of the Agile Manifesto refers to teams, not to groups. It says the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. It doesn't say it emerges from self-organizing groups. I think this is a little hint how to work Agile, how to do it, because this is something saying about the group size. So let's come back to the group sizes. If we have a group of 3, then or 5, then we have to handle 10 relationships. So I have 4 people I have to deal with, and the next one has, and if you count all relationships that have to be managed, then there are 10. And you see, if we are 10 employees, there are already 45 relationships. That's quite a lot, right? And if we're 20 employees, there are 190 relationships which we have to manage. The formula for this is n times n minus 1 over 2. And you see, this is almost n times n, so it really grows fast. So what happens to us is, somewhere here's the perfect team, but our company is growing. And then we see we are not able anymore to talk to everyone directly. It's not possible anymore. There are too many relationships we have to manage. What happens? We say, we need structure. We need someone who has the responsibility. We need someone who's deciding. So, and that's the moment when the team leader comes in. Normally this happens somewhere between 20 and 25 persons. So what we do is we have a perfect team with 8, and then there's the 9 and 10. We think we're missing something, but it takes some time till we really recognize something very important is happening, and then we invent the team leader. Normally we take one of the oldest employees we have, and he's the new team leader. And in a lot of companies, this defines the company structure. If your first employee was a back-end developer and a front-end developer and a designer, you build up from that back-end department, a front-end department, and a design department. So it's not the people who invent a team leader. Don't think about what do we need, what is our goal. They just think about we should take one we really trust, and we trust our oldest employees. So, and for that we need a title. And then, did you ever notice that growing companies have really special role titles? That's the moment. You notice, oh, we need someone who brings structure into the system. We take the oldest one we have, because he's our senior, he knows what he has to do. He has no clue what managing means, but so he's the team leader, and we invent a role type. The problem is, everyone in the room has an expectation, has an assumption what this title means, and what the responsibilities are that come with this title. But we don't talk about that. So, to give you an advice, think about who's becoming the team leader and think about the title and the responsibilities. So, this is something we're doing somewhere between. Oops, what happened? Where's my mouse?
Well, it's on the screen, it's not on your.
It's, oh yeah, I see. Okay. So, coming back, this is happening somewhere between 20 and 25 persons. From a science point of view, we don't call that a group anymore. This is an organization. This is the first time we have an organization. 25 means we have an organization. And everything changes with an organization because we have to think, so we don't have to organize anything anymore, we have to manage something. And we have to think about processes, policies, practices, stuff like that. That's what comes in when we are in an organization. We don't do this really, because we just work how we work and we try to do our best. And so we define a lot of implicit rules and policies, but we seldom point them out and say, this is how we work. And what happens then is, a lot of mistakes and failures will happen because we are not clear in what we are doing, but we have the smaller group led by the team leader, and then what we obviously are doing is us against them. We are better than them. This is totally normal to humans. There are studies where someone brought children to a playground and just divided them up so that they couldn't see them. And it took only a few hours, and they had a we feeling on the one side and a we feeling on the other side, and they really knew the other side was ugly and bad and everything you could think of. So this is something we're just doing, us against them. So we have a team, a smaller team, a sub-team in our organization, and they are working with us against them. This is happening. And to change that, you have to talk about that. And what comes in right then is the assumption of all employees how business should work. And actually we know that since centuries. And since centuries there's a division between someone who's planning the work and someone who's working, and we have the assumption that the team leader is planning and we have to work, so he's not doing his work, stuff like that. And this also happened in agile teams because there is the role title, and there is my assumption that someone who has this title leads, and then he has to decide. And if we don't talk about that, this assumption is still alive. So, scientific management focuses on planning. What this means to a lot of employees means stop thinking, because there is someone who's doing the plan. I don't need that anymore. It's his job. He's not doing that good. We are doing a great job, but our team leader, us against him. That's happening. But Agile movement shows us another way to do it. And some businesses recognize in this state that they lost something. And then they lost the direct communication, the clearness, the open support, stuff like that. And then they remember the agile values, which they didn't name before, but now they are able to name them. And then you could come to a conclusion to be more agile and to work more cross-functional, but this is a conscious decision. You have to do that. If you don't do it, you will end up in a scientific managed work. The next number is 80. I never found a real good study about that, but I really feel that there is a border. Because I saw a lot of companies which didn't grow when they came to this size. So there's a little break in growing. So I guess there's something happening. I have the idea that this might be a binding to the team rule, because then you have 8 teams and the team leader and some stuff around. And so I have the idea that this might be the reason why the 80 is such an important number. If you didn't agree in the company that you are going an agile way, you will more and more come to a scientific management company, and that means you are more in command and control. That means goal setting through the board, task management by the board, and obviously a lot of micromanagement. We hate that, for sure we hate that, but we go into this process when we don't talk about that, we want it another way. What happens if you never agreed on how you are managing your company? You started with this target and track aspect, and now you're more command and control. So you started more agile, you're now more scientific managed. What happens is you get a real bad mix. You get moving target and control. That hurts. Moving target and control means you take the worst out of agile because your target is allowed to switch every day. But then you micromanagement on the results. That's totally frustrating for every employee in this company. So, but our business is growing. The next number is a German number. The English Wikipedia says this number is about 150 to 220, so we are more exact than you.
Probably right.
Okay, that's the Dunbar's number, and it says this is the number of people I really know in an organization. I know the name, I know the responsibility. I know how the people behave, how I should work with them, how I have to ask my questions so that I get an answer. If I was one of those employees, someone else would be very clear about that, how to handle that Danish part of me. So this is the Dunbar's number. And a lot of companies which grow stop at this size. You feel that the business growing, the tempo slows down, and this is obviously because you lose the connection to your company, and then you can't decide anymore to grow. You have to get over that, and this is a brutal decision to do that, and a lot of companies don't do that. So if you see into studies how mid-sized companies, which size they have, there are a lot of companies in this area. My personal believing is this is the moment where the agile movement stops, because I really believe that agile management and agile processes live from a direct communication, from everything. You can only do person to person. And if I don't know the persons anymore in my organization, I can't do this anymore. So that's why I do believe, and that's only believing, that a real agile company stops at this size. Maybe there is a way of doing it in cells beside each other, but then they're in some way in concurrency. So I don't believe in a whole organization which is bigger than that, because you don't know the people. And for the agile way, you know to meet the people. Okay. Any questions on here?
How is Dunbar's number different in Germany? And how do you get half of it?
That's great, right? Actually, this was a meta study where they collected a lot of numbers and then just divided them. So it's
Number one.
Is there any sort of variance in sort of that Dunbar rule, which is?
Yeah, there is. So actually, there are people that are saying that Dunbar number starts at 100.
Yeah.
And there are people who are saying this goes up to 220.
I meant more like are certain types of groups will break down sooner or maintain cohesion.
This is something I don't know. What I know is there are some scientists which believe when you are in a virtual system where you have some kind of icons and photos from people, that the Dunbar number is growing because you have more intellectual help. Who is this person? And there are some studies going on surveying the Dunbar's number in virtual companies, because the idea is that if you have some support and some supportive information about the persons, that then you are able to know more people. So if you're thinking about internet, you always need a photo. You got that, right? Okay. Let's come to another point of view. I'd like to talk about tacit assumptions about work that employees have while you are growing. And my talk is about company culture, and one of the definitions is this is how we do things around here. So this might don't lead to the answer of why do I have to talk about tacit assumptions. But the agile question is always why. So why is this a definition for company culture? And the model of Shine describes this. Shine made a model about company culture, and he says we have 3 levels where we can see or feel the company culture. First of all, we see the artifacts. We see the products we produce. And what we produce tells something about who we are. And the way we are going into our business tells something about who we are. You know those black t-shirts and blue jeans? Yes? This is something telling about the company I'm in. And if I wore a tie and something like that, that's also telling something about the company culture. So this is a level I can see. The next level is something we can talk about. We share values in a company what we can talk about. I'm coming from Hamburg. A lot of Hamburg's companies say we are Hanseatic, and this means something to us because it tells something about how we are and how we want to be. But other companies may say we are very supportive, or we are very loyal, or we are the fastest, or we are doing the nerdiest crap, whatever. So you have values and you talk about it. You see those values when people say, this is how we work. Then you see the values. And below that, so this is something you can talk about. Below that, we have tacit assumption. This is something normally we don't talk about. So I have the strong feeling that capitalism is wrong. But normally, also, if I'm going into a company, I'm not saying, this is me, I'm Judith, and capitalism is wrong. So I don't do that. But I behave like that. Because when I come to the question, shall we grow or not, I'm obviously on the side of, can we talk about that? Do we need to grow so fast? And this is something which is, in my assumption, how business should be. And obviously I have assumptions how people are. Open or not open. You have assumptions how team leader is, how CEO is. And you behave like that. Because you have, this is something someone else taught you. Maybe your mother or someone in school, or you learned it somewhere in another business. But you take this with you. You don't talk about that, but it's there. And these tacit assumptions are the root for the corporate culture. Because I behave like I think I am expected to behave. And this is rooted in my assumption how business is, how my bosses are, how my environment works. And so all tacit assumptions of the employees are the base for the corporate culture of a company. And that's why it's important to talk about that. And that's really complicated because, you see, I know when I say I don't believe in capitalism, almost half of the people say, oh. So that's complicated. Okay. What happens is when every new employee comes into the company, he brings his own tacit assumption with him or her, and that changes the company culture. And at the beginning, we were the 8 perfect persons and perfect team, and we shared a lot, but we couldn't talk to everyone. And so the company culture is changing step by step with every employee because there are new insights coming into the company, new ideas, but it's obviously a little bit complicated to talk to all of them. And that's why we don't do it anymore, because we can't manage all those relationships. And that's the reason why company culture changes step by step. And now I want to point out some tacit assumptions. This is typical in startups. The founder has the right to change any process at any time. I know a lot of companies who are dealing with development, where the founder started developing, then he handled those tasks over to a development team, but on Sunday he has got time. And then he checks out the system, double checks all, makes some corrections and checks it in. I have a company where they call it the ninja commits. And they always suffer 2 to 3 days to correct whatever happened. But it happens because the team obviously thinks the founder has the right to do that. Why the hell? He's not part of the development team. But they think he has the right. Another tacit assumption is, it worked for years. Why? We just need to follow the rules. And then you have long discussions why you don't follow the rules. What the hell? It doesn't work anymore. Change it. But we love to discuss something which was fitting in another environment, and we try to put it into our nowadays, but it doesn't work. So change it. Another assumption is, if we did it whatever it is, like it's described in the textbook, then it would work. Really? I have a lot of discussions about that, the real Scrum, the real Kanban, the real XP, something like that. Actually, it's important that it works, so talk about that. Then, that's something about them and us, right? Us and them. I don't say anything anymore to the, no, I say, if you don't appreciate the work of someone else you want to cooperate with, the cooperation won't work. It doesn't work. So how could you cooperate with an idiot? It tells something about you. So this is self-fulfilling prophecy. A lot of people know what's going on in the companies. They really know it, but it's only a gut feeling. We don't talk about feelings. We love facts. And that's the reason why a lot of projects fail, because people don't talk about their emotions, about their feelings, about their gut feeling. Hey, if you're not professional, if you're somewhere else, you talk about that and you know that's the reason why a lot of things are good and why you succeed. And I don't see the reason why you shouldn't do it in business, except for this assumption that it's unprofessional to talk about the gut feeling or even a feeling in work. So, the last one is for me.
Can you explain feelings a little bit more? I mean, do you just mean feelings about, you know, because I think gut feeling is encouraged in Scrum. You know, how do you feel that you can do you think you can get feelings in
Yes.
sprint? But when you say feelings, you mean like, you know, you've got, I mean, where do you stop? Because you don't want to have a crash at work, do you? Where everyone like talks about the
If
feelings.
it's useful, I take a crush. Sometimes that's useful. So I don't stop. And what I really believe is, Scrum asked for this, and this is very useful. A lot of Agile retrospectives just don't ask for facts. You ask for facts in the postmortem analysis, but you don't ask for facts in the retrospectives, and it really makes sense to ask for feelings, but a lot of people answer with facts. So you see, how do you feel? You said, oh, the deployment didn't work. What? So that's not a feeling. I was angry about the deployment didn't work, or I didn't understand it, something like that. That might lead to a feeling, but not the fact. And a lot of people answer with facts when you ask for feelings in work. Yeah?
There's a balance and there's a slight distance. If you stand up and flip the table over and say, oh, I hate that deployment, didn't work, damn it, and start kicking things around, not good. If you say nothing, also not good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to breathe deeply and say, I really don't like that deployment.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then you have the first way to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
There's another issue as well of Emperor's New Clothes, right, which is everyone's allowed to talk about their feelings as long as everyone's happy. So it's like,
Yeah.
Which is like, this is the best thing ever, and if you don't agree, shut your face.
I've seen that where you could grade things from 3 categories. They could be good, excellent, or awesome.
Yeah.
Those are choices.
Some feelings are condoned and some feelings are pushed.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you see, there are interesting insights and feelings, so ask them. You're not unprofessional. I think you are the most professional person when you're able to talk about your feelings in your work. Because then you are able to cooperate, you are able to communicate. When you know about your strengths and your weaknesses, and you are able to talk about that, then you're really professional.
They call that emotional intelligence in groups.
Yeah.
If you want to look it up. Is having the strength and on knowledge of yourself to address feelings.
In a professional way.
Yeah.
Okay, that's for me. You got that point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what to do? The question is, the answer is really, really easy, and it's complicated to do. Just talk. Talk about what is happening to you, what are you missing, what is changing, and which assumptions do you have. So you have to talk about processes, practices, and policies. And when you're talking, that might lead to the panic zone, because actually we're talking about the feelings, right? And it's something we are not used to. And panic zone is always very complicated. And the only question is, if you are in the panic zone, is how do I get back to the comfort zone? Not how do we get back. So what you need is an atmosphere in the learning zone where you can ask questions and where you can open the talk. So don't go back to your business tomorrow and say, what's about our policies? What did we do right when we were 8 persons, and what we are doing wrong now when we are 80 persons? That's too much. So just go slowly into this conversation and stay in the learning zone. A very good way to do this are retrospectives, and you can do this in teams and also for the whole company. And a very good way to do this are open space meetings. Do you know that? I'll put you a link on that. Open space meetings have one goal. Everyone meets, and there's an open, very fluid conversation. And and you can convince people for a special mission or special vision, and think and talk about stuff which is really, really important for people. And you should discuss with the whole team, with the whole organization, how to communicate. I really believe that your teams shouldn't be bigger than 8 persons. And then the question is, how do the teams communicate with each other? And here are some ideas. You could do open daily meetings. Open daily meetings means you have a daily meeting, but everyone is invited. So if you have the feeling that someone else has an interesting topic for your team, you're just going to the open daily meeting. Another idea is the open priority meeting. So you have a backlog for the whole company, and you're doing the prioritizing with the whole company, or with everyone who's going to this open priority meeting. Other ideas are the monthly vision meetings. All collect together, and we're talking about how's our vision, how do we succeed, should we change something. Or you can do quarterly company meetings. This is all I know from my clients. And I really love the idea of one of my clients. They have a meta Kanban board where the departments show what they are doing right now. So you can actually see the design department works on those stuff, and then you can see which is related to us. And then you just join their open daily meeting, and you come into conversation what you have to do. So this is a really great idea. Whatever you decide on, just follow the Agile path. So be transparent, do something which leads to self-organized organization, and do something where the people can have and give feedback. These are all possibilities to give them. Okay. So I have to sum up my presentation. First of all, if you grow, build teams that are not bigger than 8 persons, because this is the maximum we can do to perform as a team. Then check and change your processes, practices, and policies, and do that through regular meetings and whatever you decide on. And therefore you have to decide your information flow and the communication between the groups in your company. If you do that, you won't suffer, and you have a great company culture and openness and an agile way. And this is something I really wish to you, and good luck for that. Judith, that's fascinating.
So you mentioned it briefly. Do you think that having cells within businesses helps or hinders sort of culture? So if you have sort of self-organizing units that are you can make them smaller, or even replicate units. Because one of the things we do is we have dev teams, but as soon as they get to a certain size, they sort of birth another team and we separate them out.
cell division.
Yeah. So
So
does that work?
actually, it depends who you are and in which business area you are. So I really believe in cell division, which means that you are growing a group to a certain size, and then you ask who wants to divide up into 2 groups, and then these groups can grow. But you always need some stable time between the next cell division. So they need some time where they just feel that they perform very, very good, and you need to celebrate those times. Because if we just divide into 2 smaller groups and then grow, then you have the pain while growing, because they have to discuss how do we work together, how do we behave, and then they really know how to do it, and then they are divided up. That's not fair. So they need some stable time between that. Yeah.
How many people in your company?
Hmm?
How many people in your company?
We have 4, and
Is it your company?
my will is that we grow to 20 persons, and I told you the reason.
And is it your company?
Yeah, it's my company.
Hence,
But-
that's why you got the job, even though you don't believe in capitalism.
Actually, I'm just discussing with my lawyer. I'm looking for an organization form where everyone who is employed in my company holds the same shares. Because I really believe in that. I really believe that everyone who works in my company has the same impact on our business goals. And that's the reason why I want to pay everything the same, and I want to have everyone the same shares.
Very impressive.
When you say a group doesn't perform as well, in what way don't they perform? Is it productivity or?
Yeah, productivity. But what you see is what I had with one of my clients. They had a group of 15 working in a Scrum project, and the velocity didn't increase. Nothing happened. And I said, I think that there might be the number is too high. I guess the number is too high. And so they asked the team, could you split up into 2 groups? And they did that. And they doubled their velocity in, I think, 2 sprints. And then, since then, they are on that level. So they had to communicate before too much. And they hadn't time to work because they were communicating the whole day. So.
I think, if I remember rightly, John Spolsky, when he was talking about startups and independent software vendors, and Eric Sink as well from Spolsky, they all say the ideal software team size is about 5.
Yeah.
You can do a hell of a lot with 5 people. You can do a lot more with 5 people than you can do with 25 people.
Yeah. So 5 or 8. Yeah, look at
that's the point. Is these teams tend to be self-selecting. If you've got a small team, they're going to be good people, and that's how they evolve.
Yeah.
Do you find it common that when a cell divides into 2 different groups, that do they have to reset their own goals, or is that something common,
Yes.
or does it?
To be a real team, you need to share a common team goal, and that's what you have to define new when you do the cell division, because then there is a new team, and you have to define the team goal on any time when someone joins the team. That's very important, and any member who joins the team will ask the questions, and you need to answer them. If you don't do that, you never will be a team, then you will be a group. And a group is never so performant like a team is.
So I was on a team of I think it was 9 people, and two of us had split off, been split off with new guy joining, and knew everything. We've inherited some software, we're making some new software, and our mission statement and all of that is from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to do it again because the people who decided for some rules are gone now.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Oh,
your
it's great.
alpha voice is away and you have to find a new alpha voice in your group.
It's great to
it
set some
changes
new
everything.
rules. We can say that thing we've been doing for 2 years, you know what? I think it lies outside of what we want to do, let's do something different to that.
Okay. Is there one last question from anybody?
Is there a way to break the ask the founder pattern? It seems very common. I guess the founder isn't always in touch and making his choices.
The only way to break that is to talk about that, to say, you are now a member of the board, and it's not your right and it's not your task to disturb and distract our work.
Mr.
Don't
Bezos.
do that. And I know one company where they had this conversation and it didn't work, and what they do is they deleted the commit rights for the founder.
On that note, again, brilliant, Judith, we really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.